Hi, this is Zoo, and today we're learning lesson 6.7 on percent equations. So we're just going to briefly review what we did in class today. Today we looked at equations that needed to be written, or percent problems that needed to be written as equations. We looked at this code and we copied this from our notes in class. So pause the video if you need this to write it down. Based on this code, we're going to look at several problems to help us write equations in our percent problems. Let's look at the first couple of examples. So we've got, let's say, 3 different types of percent equations. The first type where we're finding the percent. The second time where we're finding the part out of the whole percentage. And the third is to actually find the whole. Okay, so usually we have a part, we have a whole, and then we represent that as a percent, and that creates our percent problems. And so there's 3 different types of questions that we are looking at. The first type, maybe we're looking for the percent of 40 is 6. We're going to take what percent, and according to the math code, what percent means that I'm going to put x over 100. Now, very simply, I could just take the decimal. And today in class I didn't show it to you that way, but I'm going to show it to you in this video right now. So let's just take the variable like n. Of in the math code means multiply. And then 40, I'm just multiplying with 40. And then the is means my equal sign and 6. So that's my equation. Then I'm going to find n, so I'm simply going to isolate it. Let's look at the other type of problem. Number 2, which is to find the part. So let's say the problem is what is 15% of 40. So then I'm going to take what, and that's going to be my variable. Let's use n. Is our equal sign, so I'm going to use the equal sign. I've got 15%, which I want to take the decimal and change that percent to a decimal, so that's 0.15. And then of means multiply, so I'm going to multiply it with 40. And this one is a simple problem because I could just multiply them together and get my n and find the part. This would be me maybe finding a 15% tip of a $40 bill. And that's what it would mean in a real life situation. For number 3, I'm going to find the whole. So let's say the question is 6 is 15% of what? So since the whole is out of, it's the of what? So that's why it's the whole amount. So 6 is 15% of what? So then I would take 6, and then the is my equal sign, good. The 15%, I want to change it into a good decimal. And then of means, good, I'm going to multiply it with what? Well, I don't know what is, and that's going to be my variable. Very good. So now I'm going to first look at number 1 and solve that. So let's try number 1. The percent, n percent of 40, multiply 40, is our equal sign, 8. To find n percent, I'm going to take the 40 and I'm going to move it over and divide it with 8. Now if I were to simplify that fraction, I could get 1/5, and that's actually going to just give me my percentage. If I use a calculator or just simply divide it, I'm going to get 0.2 just like that. And 0.2 is the decimal, so I just have to change that decimal to a percent. So you'll see me, I'm moving my decimal 2 to the right, and then I'm making that a percent. So n is 20%. So what percent of 40 is 8? 20% of 40 is 8. Number 2, let's say that E makes 7 out of 20 shots. So what is his shooting percentage? Well, this is the same as saying, what if you got a 7 out of 20 questions on a test? Well, what is your test percentage? So 7 out of 20 is what percent? Well, 7 out of 20 means 7 over 20. And that is equal to is what percent? It's x percentage or n percentage. So how can I find what that percentage is? Well, I'm going to simply divide that fraction into a decimal, and then I'm going to change that decimal into a percent, which I know how to change decimals into percents. I want to move that decimal twice to the right, and I'm going to get 35%. Okay, let's say I'm finding an unknown percentage. So let's say that Mark, he received a $20 tip and the bill was $15. wow, he received a $20 tip on a bill that was $15. So what percent? Well, the question would be $20 is what percent of $15? So I'm going to take that 20, then I'm going to take the word is, I'm going to make that my equal sign, then I'm going to take what percent, so I'm going to use just simply an x, or n percent, then I'm going to use of as multiply, and then 15. So then I'm going to find n. Well, to find n, I want to move the 15 over, so I'm going to take 15 divided with 20, so 15 divided by 20 is 1.33 repeating, that's n percent. So what's n as a percent? And change that decimal to a percent, move it twice, so it's 133 and a third percent, or 133.3%. It's over 100% of a tip. That's awesome. Let's say I'm finding the part, like what is 30% of 60? Well, I'm going to take what, that's my n, my is, that's my equal sign, my 30%, that's 0.30, and then of means multiply, and 60, there we go. So simply multiply them. And hopefully you remember how to multiply decimals. And I'm just showing you a quick review of multiplying that decimal. And again, n is then 18. 18 is 30% of 60. Okay, now we're going to look at our homework. So let's look at the first problem for tonight. Okay, let's try number 3. So for number 3, I'm going to take what percent. So what percent would be my x? Now I could take x over 100 like we did in class. Okay, of, which is times, so I'm just going to do that side by side. 88, so I'm going to times it with 88, is 33, whoopsies, is 33, is going to be my equal 33, so then to find x, I'm going to move that 88 over and divide it with 33. Now, if I don't have a calculator, I'm going to take 33 and divide it by 88 in my box. I am going to get 0.375 and if I am, let me see, I don't think that I have that right. Oh, I do. And that's it. So it's just simply going to be equal. I'm going to change that to a percent because it's a decimal. If I kept the 100 under the x, that's how I would change the decimal to a percent. And then so I'm going to move that decimal twice to the right, giving me 37.5% for number 3. Working on number 3. It's all over the place. Okay, let's try number 8. 22% of what number is 24.2? So 22%, I'm going to change that to a decimal, 0.22. Of means multiply, so I'm going to multiply or use a parentheses. Of what number? Well, of what number? I don't know the number. It's going to be a variable, so I'm going to multiply it with x in the parentheses. Then I have is, and is in math means equal sign, so I'm going to make that equal to 24.2. Now I'm going to find x. X is going to equal to 24.2, but I'm going to take that 0.22, move it over, and do a division. So I'm going to divide it with 24.2. So again, I could simply take my calculator. If you're practicing dividing the two numbers, you're going to put 24.2 in the box and 22 outside. So if I divide that, it's actually very simple of a division. See, 1.1. So x is equal to 1.1. So my answer is 1.1. Of what number? Oh, that's the decimal. I'm sorry, I was supposed to be dividing by 0.22 and not just 22, so there is a decimal here, which means I need to move the decimal twice to the right, which also means I need to move the decimal twice to the right with the number inside the parentheses. So the number that I should get actually is 11, 2, 1, 1 for 2, 22, 1 for here, 22, and then a 0. So I'm going to get 110. So the number is 110. I thought that was really odd. So that's number 8. So my x is equal to 110. Okay, for number, let's say number, let's try 12. 30 is what percent of 60? 30 is what percent would mean x of 60. Of means multiply, so I'm going to multiply x with 60. So something times 60 equals 30. Should be able to do that in my head, but let's just work it out. So x is going to equal to, move the 60 over here, divide it with 30. So 60 divided with 30, 30 divided by 60. So x would be 0.5 or half. So what percent? Well, I have to change half or 0.5 to a percentage, and that we know is 50%. So 30 is 50% of 60. Maybe we already knew that answer, not even having to write it out. But we do have to know that this is our equation. Let me just highlight it for you. And if we could simply get that answer in our head, then we can just write 50%. Okay? Let's look at the back of our worksheet really quick. This is a review from last week. We're looking at the percent that something is changing. So let's just look at number 1. Number 1 is asking us that the cost of the shoe that the store bought was for $68, but then they're selling the shoe for $119. So there's a percent they increase the price. So the percent that they increase, we want to use the D over the O. We want to find the difference and divide it by the original price. So the difference between 119 and 68 is going to be 51. So 51 is going to divide by the original. Now, what's the original? Well, the original is what the store bought it for before they marked it up to sell it. And so this original price was 68. So 51 is going to divide with 68, and then we will get 0.75, and we know that decimal is the same as the percent. That is 75%. So for number 1, they marked up and increased their price for profit by 75% of the original price of the shoe. And you're going to do that for each one of these questions. Find the D, make sure you pick the right original number. That's going to be the challenging part. So try your best. I am going to put this PowerPoint slide that we went over at the beginning of the video onto Edmodo so you can view the whole thing, since we didn't go through the entire thing. Alright, have a great day. Bye.